Hi, I'm Madeline James, and today is the 1 year anniversary of finishing my book. Looking back at how much I have grown and how much my book has grown in the last year is absolutely amazing, and I'm very proud of all the work and all the growth that I've done. So today I thought it would be fun to go back through the timeline of the past year and all the revision stages and I guess the timeline of everything that I've done to work on my book in the last year. And then I'm also going to go in at the end sort of where my project is now and what my plan is going forward. I also have a few questions that I've been asked on Twitter, Instagram, and in one of my writing groups. So I'm going to answer those at the end too, so it'll be like a little Q&A segment about this first year of revisions. Okay, so here is my, I guess, rough timeline of the last year. And I'm going to kind of divide this into phases, I think. So we're going to have drafting. I'll write that up here. And I'll write those parts in purple. We're going to have prep. And we're going to have breaks. So obviously the first thing to happen was I finished my first draft. So draft 1, which I finished in August of 2021, that took me about 7 months to do. And when I finished it, it was 150,000 words. Which, if you haven't watched my channel, my book is adult fantasy. So while that's not ridiculous, it also wasn't necessarily what I was aiming for. But that's basically where I was at the August 2021. So what I did after that was I took a break. And I had seen this advertised a lot of places that it was really good to take a step back. And I think for me, it was very helpful. So I'm glad I did that. And that break was like maybe a month and a half. So we'll say from August to mid-September, I sort of took a break. And during this break, I did a few things. So I gave my project to alpha readers. So it was with alphas, or I guess singular alpha reader, which was my husband. I planned my next book, not in the series, like separate project. And then I did structure and craft research. And this was really helpful. I learned a lot of stuff that I have since incorporated. It obviously was too late to add into my first draft, but this was a lot of information that I applied when I was going through and making my next revision guide. And the reason this took so long, I was planning on it originally being a month, but it took my alpha reader a month and a half. So I definitely learned to be a little bit more generous with the time that I give my alphas. Well, any reviewers, honestly. But so then the next thing I did was prep. So this was maybe about from here. So around getting towards the end of September into October up through up to November. So we'll go here. And this was prep. And this is basically, I had all my feedback from my first draft, so I read through the book on my own and made my own notes. And I went through my alpha feedback. And then I created my revision guide. And I do have a video on that process. I was YouTubing at that point, so there is a video for that. I can link that below. Okay, so then at this point, it is November, and I dove into my next draft. So this was going to be draft 2, and this took me until probably most of the way through December. So this was going to be about almost 2 months was draft 2. And my main focus here was a big developmental edit. Going through a lot of the feedback that I had gotten and that I had kind of read through and been like, you know what, I need to fix these things. I did a lot more character development. A couple of my POVs were really lacking. So those are big things that I worked on because I never really finished and gotten to the revision stages of a full-length novel before. So I had a lot of learning to do and a lot of issues to fix here. The other problem was that I wasn't paying attention to word count, so I was mostly adding stuff to fix problems. So my book was 150K at the beginning of this book, and halfway through this edit, it was 170K. I noticed that, and I stopped, I guess, adding as much. If I added stuff, I tried to take away too. So I didn't end up adding more overall words after that first half. I mostly replaced stuff, but my draft was 170,000 words at the end of draft 2, which was ridiculous. Right after that, after draft 2, I dove right into draft 3 because I was trying to do prep to apply for AMM, which we will get to. But basically from that last bit of December until maybe a little bit into January, I did draft 3, which the whole purpose of draft 3 was cuts. And I got the whole novel from 170K to 140K. Which, you know, wasn't really where I wanted it still, but it was significantly better, and I didn't feel like that would completely rule me out from AMM. So the next thing, and this will kind of be in like draft color because it's not directly working with my book, but at the beginning of January, I applied for AMM, which is, whoa, I cannot write when I'm talking. AMM is Author Mentor Match, which is something that is ran by Alexa Dunn and someone else, I can't remember who it is, but basically it's a thing that you can apply for. It's sort of like querying, and you might get matched up with another published writer or someone in the industry to sort of be your mentor to help you towards publication, or at least towards, I guess, the querying process. So I did apply for that, and I was trying to kind of get the book cut down a little bit more for it. I did not get into AMM, and I don't think my book was really ready. I think this was too early in the process for kind of a first book, but it was incredibly valuable, and you'll see that going from this submission until, let's see, when did I do on to something else? So probably until April. So over these almost 3 months, I did a lot of things here. So one of the big things that I worked on was I outlined my next book. But I also exchanged with critique partners. And I think I exchanged with 4 CPs. And all of these people were other AMM hopefuls that had applied here. So once I had applied, there's a lot of different things on Twitter that people were chatting, and I kind of created a Discord server and was like, who out of the adult fantasy authors wants to join my Discord? We can do like critique partner matching. So everyone like posted profiles and like reached out to people to get critique partners, because we were all in the stage where we had to finish somewhat revised book that we wanted to move towards traditional publishing. So it was really nice being able to find a lot of people in the same sort of stage I was. So I exchanged with 4 different critique partners. So a lot of this was also like reading their books and providing a lot of critical feedback and talking with them and all that sort of stuff. So it was a lot going on here, and this probably took a lot longer than I was expecting because we were all exchanging with a lot of people, and it just sort of took a long time. And I was also really enjoying working on that book. I did other craft research here too, but that's probably the big thing I did. But coming into April, this is when I dove into prep again. So it was probably April to June was my prep phase again. And the big things I did here was compiling critique partner feedback, which there was a lot of it. I actually had like feedback from myself, feedback from my 4 different critique partners. So I had to kind of go through everything, figure out how I wanted to apply it. And then I did a full scene analysis, which was crazy. All of these steps I also have vlogs on, but basically I went through every single scene in my book and tried to map out the exact purpose of it, what plots were involved, all the different I guess plot development it was doing. And I also mapped arcs. So this is like character arcs and all the different plot lines, because I was learning a lot about that, and those were things that I hadn't really known in a structured, concrete way before I had planned the book. So I kind of did all that and then realized I needed to do a complete rewrite. So the other thing that took a long time here was re-outlining my entire book. And this was basically, I took those important plot lines that mattered And I'm like, okay, this is how long I want the book to be. This is how long my scenes end up being, because I really knew at this point how long it took me, or how many words it took me to write a scene. And I was like, okay, well, if I want to get all these plot lines in, all these POV characters, and this many words, and this is how long my scenes are, this is how many scenes I could have. So I divided the plot and broke it into beats based off what I was trying to do. And so I re-outlined the entire book that way, which took a long time and was a lot of effort. But then I could dive into draft 4. And draft 4 is still ongoing a little bit, so we'll go with that. But this is a major rewrite. And I started this with a writing retreat. So I met up with some of the other writers I had met on Twitter, and we kind of went to an Airbnb and we all wrote together for a weekend, which was absolutely amazing. And I would say this rewrite was probably a 2/3 like complete rewrite, writing scenes from scratch, and maybe 1/3 recycling scenes I had before, and obviously losing a bunch of words. My current projection, I think, for how many words it's going to be based off my current progress, which I'm almost all the way through, but I think it's going to be about 125,000 words, which will be about what I was hoping for. I had originally aimed for 110,000 words, but I've had to add a number of scenes and break a few scenes into multiple scenes because I realized I didn't actually know what a scene was. I was actually sort of planning for chapters that might have multiple scenes in them instead of actual scenes. So like my counts were roughly off, but it's going to be around 125,000 words, which I am perfectly happy with for an adult fantasy. Like it's epic adult fantasy. 125,000 words is not unreasonable. If I do end up making this be my debut, there's a good chance I'd end up increasing the word count closer to 150,000 words, but not super the point here. But so now it is currently, is it September? No, it's the very end of August now. So we're actually about right here. And so this is going to probably go until almost halfway through September would be my guess at my current rate. But that is basically what I've done in the last year. I've gone through just about 3 new drafts on the book. I've gone through a lot of prep. I've had some breaks to work on another book. But the big thing that you'll see here as like a trend is I've done a lot of learning. I've done a lot of growing of my resources and my community. And like when I started a year ago, I did not have any writing friends at all. I didn't know anyone who wrote books. I didn't know any resources. All I had was basically YouTube. I watched AuthorTube and that was it. And through the slow process of honestly being on social media, I started meeting people and I started to, post in threads and communities and everything where I was meeting people that did things that I did. I started a writing group that, hasn't actually really gone anywhere, but I have 2 of my closest writing friends from that group still. And I have a bunch of critique partners now. I have a bunch of different Discords with people I know that are like out there in the industry. Like some of the AMM mentors or AMM hopefuls that I met, some of them have agents now, which is crazy. So it's been a really big year of growth, a big year of progress. And while I don't think this is a complete reflection of what my timeline will sort of be in the future, I think it's a really good starting look at figuring out what that's going to be and how I can plan in the future to sort of accomplish my goals when I want to accomplish them. Let me switch away from this real quick. Okay, so I wanted to go over sort of my plan going forward now that we sort of have the last year. And if you haven't watched any of my videos on sort of like my overarching plan, my goal is to basically try and traditionally publish. So my goal is to sort of have a book to query every year and continue doing that until I have an agent and then I'm published. So that's like my goal. But so basically this year I want to finish revising my Blood Magic project, which is this book that I finished a year ago, or finished the first draft a year ago. But I want to be querying. It had originally been by the end of this year, but I think it's going to be in the spring now or like beginning of summer. And also draft and get through that finished planning stages of my next book. So going forward, right, it is getting into September now. Well, tomorrow's September 1st. So September, the first few weeks, I want to finish this rewrite, which is draft 4. And then I want to maybe do like a quick draft 5 that's really just doing a read through and kind of fixing all the issues as I go, because this has been a major rewrite and there's going to be inconsistencies. So I'm going to do like a quick 1 week pass, I think, after that. And then that'll get me through the end of September, I'm thinking. And then it'll be October. I'm going to do Preptober, and Preptober is sort of going to be a prep for drafting my next novel. I already have an outline and most of the stuff ready to go, but I've sort of learned a little bit since then, like the fact that I don't know how to plan scenes. So I want to go back through my outline, touch a few things up. There's still some world building I need to do, some character development I need to do, and I want to put everything in Campfire, which I'm very excited about using. I have a couple friends that use it, and they were giving me a tour, and I'm officially in love with it, and I want to use it. So that's going to be my October. And at this time also, so by the end of September, I'm going to print out my book, I'm going to give it to my husband, and I'm going to give it to a couple of my new critique partners, some that have read the previous books and some that haven't. So it'll be with them getting feedback. And then once we're in November, I'm going to start drafting, and I'm only going to do a month. I don't think I'll actually get 50,000 words in November. I think I might try because it'll be fun. But basically, I just want to get through the first quarter of the first draft of my next book. And then once it is December, right? So after NaNoWriMo, I'm going to dive back into this Blood Magic project. And I'm going to do a quick, go through my feedback, figure out what I need to change, and start another draft. And my goal is to kind of have that draft take about 2 months. So it'll be probably the end of January when I'm completely finished with that draft, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And I'm hoping this will allow me to apply for AMM with this book again. It's gonna have been completely rewritten, be significantly shorter. I've learned a lot more about blurbs and querying, and it's different enough that I can do AMM again. You can't always sub to AMM multiple times with the same project, but I've changed a lot and improved a lot, so that's kind of my goal. But then once I'm done that draft, I'll probably give it to a couple beta readers. So these will be people that, I might give it to someone that's already read it, but this will mostly be people who haven't read my book yet. I'm not looking for developmental feedback. I'm looking for, really big issues that might still stand out, little plot holes, little small things, because I will have hopefully done all the developmental stuff. So that'll be, maybe a couple months doing that while I pick back up drafting my other new project. So that might be 2 to 3 months depending on how much I get done in November. So then let's say that takes me 3 more months to draft that. That'll put me in, February, March, April. So then around May, I'll probably want to do one final pass of my Blood Magic book, so one final draft, and do all the line editing stuff, do the copy editing stuff, go through in Pro Writing Aid and find some of the big issues, that sort of stuff, just kind of grind through that, maybe read the book out loud a few times, all that just on the page, line level, paragraph level editing, and get through that. And then hopefully by, July, I'll be ready to start querying. I think I'll continue to do some querying prep. I've already started a little bit of agent research and started gathering my spreadsheets and stuff, but I'm thinking by July, I will be able to be querying and have my book really be what I want it to be. And that's my plan. Okay, let's move on to the Q&A section. I'm trying to go through on my phone and find where the questions are from my critique group. Okay, here's the first question. Did you have to kill any darlings? And if so, what was that like? Was it easier than I thought, harder? How do I feel about it afterwards? So I've obviously killed a lot of darlings. I've ripped out some stuff in having to do this rewrite and this re-outline that I really enjoyed. Almost every character, even the tertiary ones in my story, had actual arcs, and there was a lot of scenes where they were just there to sort of show this other side character. But the issue with that was, even though it was really satisfying and good character development, it was not doing anything for the plot. So I did have to rip those out, and I am very sad about a few of them, but overall, I feel like it serves the story really well, and knowing now that those weren't serving the plot, I'm happy that they're not in the book anymore, even though it kind of hurt to do. And And I've also ripped out, I think my one character, Liv, who is sort of like a blood reader. She can read other people's like emotions or like feel other people's emotions. And I have like butchered her entire, like everything that was in any of her scenes is all completely gone and rewritten. And I really liked some of the stuff. Like, it was really fun to read. There was a lot of romance in some of her early stuff that was like very spicy and very good, but it ended up not really working with the plot, and it ended up having to be something very different. So that definitely hurt, but I would say overall I'm happy about it. It's definitely making it better, and I know why I have to pull these things out, so I think that makes it okay. Okay, here's the next question. What is the number one thing you've learned about revising after this latest round? So, not that I'm completely done the rewrite, but I think the biggest thing I've learned is that it is a serious boon, at least for me in my process, to actually properly go through when I'm outlining and planning all of this stuff and like do it correctly, and to understand and really learn about the craft of how to write scenes and how to do plot structures and what the normal beats are, and like just learning the craft of all this stuff and going through and like iterating on it over and over and over is so helpful. And there is no way I was capable or talented enough to write a clean draft the first time. Like, you sort of just, I'm learning how much I didn't know before, and I'm sure there's still a lot that I don't know, but I feel like I could now outline a book that's significantly cleaner. Like, probably wouldn't need a complete rewrite, hopefully. Okay, here's another one. Were there any systems or tools that made a difference in your process for you, and how/why? I think the craft research helped, but also trying to learn how to analyze my own plots, like, and doing critique partner feedback from other people and figuring out how to analyze their plots for them and put it into like a format that we could both understand, and then turning those tools around and using them on my own book. So going through Story Genius and kind of learning about how scenes are supposed to connect, going through, what is that book? I don't think it's on my desk, but it's like a scene analysis and structure book, and going through that and learning how scenes are supposed to be structured, and then breaking down every scene in a novel and seeing how they connect. And I did an analysis, I think the video's on here, of For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, and I went through that entire book and I plotted out like, this is every single scene in this entire book. These are all the plot lines in this entire book. I mapped out like the stakes of the book and how in each scene the stakes either increased or lowered. I mapped out the progress of the subplots, and like I literally made charts and graphs for every single bit of this until I understood like, this is a fast-paced, high-stakes book that's a serious turn pager. What about what plot devices they used made it that? Like, and being able to see like, okay, almost every single scene the stakes are increasing, or this is doing this, or there's significant conflict and tension in every single scene. And then doing the same thing for another book that kind of has different prose that's maybe, I can't remember the other one I did, but it was a lot slower, more character focused. And like just being able to see that and then understand, and the ability to see it with intentionality so that I can be intentional about my own draft and go through and map it out and be like, oh, well, you know, I'm not doing this, like raising the stakes for a long period of time, that's going to be boring. And just learning how to do all of that stuff has been incredibly helpful. Okay, what is one tip you have for writers doing their first draft that will make the revision process easier? I mean, I don't want to say any of the cliche stuff like consistency, just get it done, anything like that. But I would say if you're writing your first draft, I think the big thing really is to just get through it and make notes of things that you want to change, because I don't think I could have at that time gone back and changed things as I went, because I didn't know everything yet. Like, being able to stop, give that book to other people, get feedback from them, research craft stuff, because if you're writing your first book, you probably haven't read every craft book in the sun. You don't understand it the way that you will after finishing a book. And then being able to go back and look at my notes that I had made and come up with a ton of new ones doing a reread, like, you learn so much better. Like, until you give yourself the chance to really learn, I don't think there's that much of a point in going back and keeping changing things until you've kind of gone through the whole thing and are able to look at the bigger picture and learn about a little bit more about structure and like plot. And especially if you're a pantser, like I've seen a lot of things that say that pantsers basically outline after the first draft. So you kind of just got to let yourself get there. But the first draft is such a small part of the overall journey. I think it's definitely the hardest to get through, but it's like such a small part. Like 4 or 5 months, if you can write, you know, an hour a few times a week, you can probably get through your first draft. You just have to schedule the time, get it done, be consistent, and just have a plan. Having a plan is probably the big thing that motivated me, because I could see this is when I'll be done if I stick to the plan, and then I could, you know, stick to the plan or adjust it as I needed to. But I don't know, you just have to take it seriously and be like, this is the thing I'm doing this now, and then do it. I think that's all the questions I have. I hope I didn't miss one, but if anyone else has any questions, you can put them down below. But this is all very personal to my journey, and how everyone goes through this process is going to be very different and customized to them. But I thought it'd be fun to talk about, and I'm also just really excited, so I wanted to like do a video or something about this, because it's like, I finished a book, and it's been a year since I finished a book. I've been revising a book for a whole year. Like, I don't know. I think it's crazy. I think it's exciting, and I'm very proud of myself. And I'm trying to kind of sit on that for a little while and really like acknowledge all the hard work I've done and all the hours and time and effort that I put into this, and just really try to acknowledge that. And yeah. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, you know, like, subscribe, comment, whatever. But I will see you next time.